You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. Seismic activity at sporting events, that's nothing new to Seattle fans. Many of us remember Marshawn Lynch's 2011 BEAST-QUAKE. Seahawks fans revel in Lumen Field's reputation for noise when opposing teams are on offense. Even T-Mobile Park has experienced its fair share of shaking. Earlier this year, when the Mariners made it to the playoffs, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network was on site to measure the bone rattling when the M's hit home runs. And this past weekend, they were at the 49ers game with a live stream where fans could keep tabs on how much shaking was going down. Professor Harold Tobin is the director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. He's also the state seismologist for Washington, and he's here with me in studio. Professor, thanks very much for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Did you do the Mariners seismic analysis too? Were you there?
We did that, absolutely. And one of the playoff games I was there in the ballpark, and then the other ones were monitoring it from back at PNSN.
That's awesome. Okay, so what exactly happened on Saturday? How did the seismic activity stack up from what you and your team could tell?
Yeah, it's fantastic to be able to do this and get in there and actually put our instruments in the stadium. And the seismic activity was remarkable. The amount of shaking that just everybody jumping up and down, banging on their seats in Lumen Field generates is really noticeable to people who are there, and now we can actually record it and measure it. So the shaking itself, well, we have one station that's in common from all the way back in 2011 at BEAST-QUAKE time and now, so we can do a kind of head-to-head comparison.
Oh, cool.
And I can say basically that they shook the stadium at about the same level, about the same peak amplitude of that shaking is what we recorded as compared to the BEAST-QUAKE. And that's specifically during that very first play, the kickoff run back 95-yard touchdown by Rashid Shaheed.
Okay, so that opening kickoff return was comparable to the BEAST-QUAKE. What are your team members actually looking at when they are telling us about the seismic activity? What kind of data are you able to gather?
Yeah, what we use are the exact same seismometers we use to monitor for actual earthquakes. Of course, the stadium is not really generating an earthquake, but it is definitely generating ground shaking. So we placed 6 instruments around Lumen Field. They are seismometers, and all they do is basically measure how the ground moves. Up and down is the main simple measurement that we make. It's not very complicated, and it's just looking at the acceleration or the movement, the displacement of the ground at any given moment. Again, it's a little bit different from the noise. So everybody, it's famous that the 12s bring the noise at Seahawks games. And this is the noise in the sense of what is actually translated into ground motion, into shaking, as opposed to just sound in the air.
And how do you make sure it differentiates from background levels of seismic activity that we always have around here in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, any of our instruments, of course, is recording a little bit of noise all the time, from trucks driving by, trains, just everything that happens. But when one of these events is taking place, the peak just goes up by a huge amount. We see it's very easy to tell when a big play is happening during the game.
So why do this? You're a scientist, and obviously there's a lot of serious things to know about what is happening seismically in our region. Why watch these sporting events?
Yeah. First of all, we do it. We definitely do it because it's fun and it's something that everybody around is excited about. People are interested in the game, and we can just provide a little bit different angle on what's actually happening in a stadium when there's 60,000+ people cheering and jumping up and down. I think the other reason for it from our perspective is that our job is to basically monitor for earthquakes and remind people that earthquakes are a hazard that we really have in this region, but they very rarely actually happen. People go through their, decades without feeling an earthquake, right? So this is one of the ways when we can get in there and just say, hey, here's a reminder, we're doing this all the time. We are actually monitoring for earthquakes 24/7 so that we can give people advance warning through the Shake Alert earthquake early warning system when one happens, and just think about are you ready for an earthquake at home? Is our city ready, and so on. So yeah, it's a little bit of we're not doing a lot of science with this work specifically, so much as just really trying to make that connection for everybody.
Okay, is there a chance that the Seahawks fans' seismic activity, so the Rashid Shaheed quake, which is comparable again to the BEAST-QUAKE, could it ever actually be dangerous to those around the stadium?
Fortunately, it's not dangerous. And fortunately, the structural engineers who design and build those stadiums know what they're doing. And they, people can jump around in the stands and it doesn't fall down. So that's great. We like that very much. The amount of shaking is comparable to the amount of shaking we would get from an earthquake at some distance away. And one of the comparisons we can make is that Lumen Field area shook about the same as Lumen Field area did shake, in a magnitude 3.2 near Bremerton in 2025. That happened earlier last year.
Oh, very interesting.
So, so it doesn't mean it's the same as a magnitude 3 earthquake because we weren't right there at it. We're not at the epicenter location, but it's the amount of shaking we get from some of our sort of local area earthquakes that people do feel and notice.
So the Seahawks are going to host the Rams. This is, a huge storied rivalry. The Rams are on a roll right now, having, pulled out that win against Chicago on Sunday. Will your scientists be in the building? Will you be watching for seismic activity?
Our instruments aren't going anywhere. We're definitely going to be monitoring that game as well. In fact, I'm going down to Lumen Field later this afternoon to do a walkthrough with them and film some content and so on. So we will be there. I'm not sure if we will be there physically. We can do just as good a job essentially by being back at back at our laboratory. And we had a fantastic watch party on Saturday with about 15 or so PNSN folks plus some kids and maybe a dog or two running around and watching everything that was going on so that we could be monitoring it. We could be putting out some of our posts about it and so on.
So that's a seismologist party?
That's right.
You're all watching the
seismologist
instruments?
Party. Yes, yeah. Right. We're watching the instruments. We did see that, we put out a live feed of what our stations were actually showing so people could watch it in real time. We had over 3,000 people streaming on average throughout the whole game. Peak was higher than that. And so people were paying attention. One of the interesting things is that our feed is coming in pretty much real time, whereas there's a TV delay. And so we could tell when there was about to be a big play on the field, or at least on what we were seeing on TV. Of course, it had already happened on the field.
Yeah, you start to see the shaking and
exactly.
There's a turnover or something.
Exactly.
That's fun. Professor Harold Tobin, state seismologist for Washington and the director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Thank you so much. This is, I think, a lot of fun. And as you've said, it's a way for us to kind of engage with the realities of our very seismically active region in a little bit less of a dire setting.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime right here online at KUOW.org, or of course on your favorite podcast app.